Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive where we're going to get into some essential English vocabulary.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's for anyone looking to build a really strong conversational foundation in English.
Right.
And
It can be
it can be so daunting when you're first starting out with a language.
Oh, yeah.
But
for sure.
These sources that we've got, they really break it down in a way that makes it feel achievable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles when you're learning a new language.
Yeah.
You look at it and you think, oh my gosh.
It's a mountain.
This is a mountain of words.
Yes.
But if we can kind of break that down into smaller pieces,
right,
then it suddenly seems much more manageable.
Exactly. And that's what's so great about these sources
is
they really focus on
they really narrow it down.
Narrowing it down to the core, the essentials.
To the essentials.
So before we get into the specifics of like what those words are, let's talk about like why is vocabulary so important?
Yeah.
When you're first starting out with a language.
Sure.
I mean, like we all know words are important.
Right. Yeah, of course we need words.
Right.
But like, how does it actually work?
Yeah.
Why is it like the first thing you should focus on?
Yes.
Well, I think a good way to think about it is like vocabulary is the bedrock of any language.
Okay.
Without words, you can't form sentences.
Right.
You can't express your ideas. You can't understand other people.
You can't do anything.
You can't do anything.
Yeah.
It's like trying to build a house without bricks. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
You need those foundational elements.
Right.
And mastering those core words is like unlocking a whole new world of communication and connection.
Okay, so give me like an example.
Oh, sure.
Of like
So imagine
a situation where that would really make a difference.
Imagine you're traveling
Okay.
in an English-speaking country.
Okay.
And you don't know much English. But you know some basic words like help or water or thank you.
Okay.
Those simple words can actually be incredibly helpful in those situations.
It's those like everyday interactions.
Exactly.
Where it really makes a difference.
It's those everyday situations where you realize,
right,
oh wow, these basic words can really
get you what you need.
Get me what I need. They can get me out of a jam.
Yeah, they can really be lifesavers in some cases.
Totally.
Okay, so speaking of specifics.
Yeah.
Your sources break down essential vocabulary into these really handy categories.
Yeah, and this is what I love about these sources.
Yeah.
Is that they don't just give you a giant list of words that say good luck.
Good luck, figure it out.
They break it down
Right.
into these manageable chunks that make it much less intimidating.
Okay, so let's start with greetings and introductions.
Okay.
Because, I mean, that's
the bread and butter
That's the bread and butter.
of any conversation.
Right, like you're going to use those phrases every time.
Every time you interact with somebody
Yeah.
in English, you're going to use a greeting.
Yeah.
You're going to use an introduction.
So we're talking like, hello.
Hello.
Good morning, good evening.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening.
How are you?
How are you?
What's your name?
What's your name?
My name is.
My name is?
Like really, really basic stuff.
The basics, but the most important stuff.
Yeah.
Because those are the phrases that are going to start every single conversation.
Yes.
And make that first impression.
And I love the tip in one of your sources about practicing these in front of a mirror.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
It's so helpful.
It is.
Because it helps you get comfortable with the sounds.
Right.
But it also helps you build confidence.
Yeah.
Which is so important when you're first starting out.
It's huge because when you're confident, you're more likely to actually use the language.
Yes.
And that's the goal, right?
Exactly.
We want you to be able to use this language.
Yes.
Not just know it.
Okay, so moving on from greetings and introductions.
Okay.
Let's talk about basic politeness.
All right.
So please, thank you. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Super important in any language.
Essential.
But especially when you're navigating a new culture.
Yeah, because politeness is kind of like social currency.
I like that.
It shows respect, it shows consideration.
Yeah.
And it really helps to smooth the way for interactions.
Yeah. You don't want to accidentally offend anyone.
Exactly.
Right.
And, you know, one of the sources gives this great example.
Okay.
Imagine you're at a restaurant.
Okay.
And you want to ask for water.
Right.
Saying, excuse me, could you bring me some water, please?
Yeah.
It's simple.
Right.
It's polite.
It's effective.
It's effective.
Yeah.
So those little phrases can make a big difference.
Okay. So we talked about greetings and introductions. We talked about politeness.
Yeah.
What about everyday objects?
Oh, this is where things start to get really practical. Because we're talking about things like chair, table, window, phone book.
All things you see around you.
The things that you encounter every single day.
Right.
And when one of the sources had this brilliant tip.
Okay.
about using sticky notes
Oh, love this.
to label things around your house.
It's so simple.
So simple, but so effective.
And it works.
It works.
Because you're constantly seeing those words.
You're passively learning
Yeah.
without even realizing you're studying.
Like a little brain hack.
It is. It's a brain hack.
Love it.
So that's a really fun and easy way to kind of integrate vocabulary learning into your daily life.
Okay, so we've got greetings, introductions, politeness, everyday objects.
Okay.
What about numbers and time?
Oh, this is essential.
Yeah.
Because you need numbers for so many things.
Right.
You need them for shopping.
Prices, quantities.
Prices, quantity.
Phone numbers, addresses.
Phone numbers, addresses.
All of that.
All of that. And then time.
Time, being able to tell time.
Understand schedules. Understand schedules, make appointments.
Beyond time.
Beyond time.
Right. Like, that's so important.
So important.
And what are your sources talks about practicing telling time throughout the day?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Like, make it a habit to look at a clock.
Yeah.
Or your phone. And just ask yourself, what time is it?
Yeah, just get into that habit of thinking about time in English and using those phrases.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But there's still so much more to explore.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot more.
So we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll dive into some more essential vocabulary categories.
Sounds good. Okay, so we covered a lot of ground in part 1.
We did.
With those essential categories, greetings, introductions.
Building blocks.
The building blocks, right?
Oh, yeah.
Politeness, numbers, time, everyday objects.
So now that we've got those down, what happens after that?
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because we start to move beyond individual words.
Right.
And we start to explore how words work together in context.
Context.
Yeah, context is key.
Okay.
Because the meaning of a word can actually change.
Really?
Depending on how it's used in a sentence or in a particular situation.
Give me an example.
Okay, sure. So let's take the word run, for example.
Okay. Run.
Run can mean to move quickly on your feet.
Okay.
Like I went for a run this morning.
Right.
But it can also refer to a tear in your stocking.
Oh, like a run in your tights?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or it can even describe a series of performances of a play.
Oh, wow.
Like the show had a successful run on Broadway.
So the same word can have all these different meanings.
Multiple meanings.
Depending on how it's used.
That's right. And it's the context that gives us clues about which meaning is intended.
So how do you get good at understanding context?
That's a great question.
Like, it seems like something that would just come with experience.
You're right. Experience is a huge factor.
Right.
The more you expose yourself to the language, the more you'll naturally pick up on these nuances.
So reading, listening, talking.
Exactly. All of those things.
Okay.
But there are things you can do to kind of accelerate that process.
Like what?
Well, remember those tips we talked about in part 1?
Yeah.
About listening to podcasts and reading books?
Right.
Those become even more valuable when you're trying to understand context.
So it's not just about like passively listening or reading. It's about actively paying attention.
Yeah, you want to be actively engaged.
To how words are being used.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you come across a word you don't understand,
Yeah, what do you do?
don't immediately reach for the dictionary.
Wow.
Try to figure out the meaning
Okay.
based on context.
Okay, I like that.
What other words are being used?
Right.
What's the overall tone of the sentence?
The topic.
The topic, exactly. It's a puzzle,
I love puzzles.
You got to put the pieces together.
Okay, so we're puzzle solvers now.
We are all puzzle solvers when it comes to language.
Love it. Okay, so we're getting good at understanding context.
All right.
What's next?
Okay, so this is where we start to move beyond the literal meaning of words.
Okay.
And we start to explore things like idioms,
The idioms are
phrasal verbs.
Okay, those are tricky.
They can be tricky.
Yeah.
But they're also a lot of fun.
Okay.
Because they add so much color and personality to the language.
Give me an example.
Okay, sure. So think about the idiom, kick the bucket.
Kick the bucket.
Now, that doesn't literally mean to kick a bucket, right?
Right.
It means to die.
Oh, okay.
So idioms are full of these figurative meanings
Right.
that you have to kind of figure out.
So how do you learn them?
Well, honestly, you probably never stop learning idioms.
Really?
There are so many of them.
Okay.
But you don't need to memorize an entire dictionary of idioms.
Okay, that's good.
The best way to learn them is through exposure.
Exposure.
Yeah, through reading, listening, talking to native speakers.
So it all comes back to that immersion.
It does. And here's another tip. When you come across an idiom you like,
Yeah.
write it down.
Oh, good idea.
Create a flashcard for it. Make it your own.
Yeah, like a little collection of fun phrases.
And then try using it in your own conversations.
Good idea.
The more you practice, the more natural it will become.
Okay, so we're understanding context. We're learning idioms.
Yeah.
What's next?
Okay, so this is where we start to dive into the world of grammar.
Grammar.
Okay,
I have to admit, grammar's not my favorite topic.
I know a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
But grammar doesn't have to be scary.
Okay.
It's actually a very useful tool for communication.
Okay.
Think of it like learning to play an instrument.
Okay.
You need to understand the basic notes and chords before you can create beautiful music.
So grammar's like the notes and chords of language.
Exactly. And just like with music, the best way to learn grammar is through practice.
So reading, writing, speaking, listening.
All of it.
Okay.
As you encounter different grammatical structures, pay attention to how they're used.
Okay.
And try to incorporate them into your own communication.
So is that active engagement again?
It is.
Noticing the patterns experiment.
Exactly.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mistakes are a natural part of the learning process.
Right.
In fact, they're often the best way to learn.
You always say that.
I do, because it's true.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Context, idioms, grammar.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
There's one more thing.
Okay.
And this is where we start to see the intersection of language and culture.
Language and culture.
Yeah, because language is not just a set of words and rules.
Right.
It's a reflection of the values, the beliefs, the customs of a particular group of people.
So learning a language
is about understanding the culture behind it.
Okay.
Think about the way people greet each other in different cultures.
Okay.
In some cultures, a handshake is the norm. In others, it's a hug or a bow.
Yeah.
These customs are reflected in the language that's used.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Right.
So it's not just about the words themselves. It's about understanding the meaning behind the words.
Cultural context.
The cultural context, yeah.
And as you continue your language learning journey, you'll start to pick up on these nuances.
And that will make you a better communicator.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so we've explored context, idioms, grammar, and the connection between language and culture.
A lot of information.
A lot of information.
But hopefully it's been helpful in kind of giving you a roadmap.
A roadmap.
For your language learning journey.
I love that. Okay, so as we wrap up part 2 here, what would you say is the most important takeaway?
The most important takeaway
from this part of our deep dive?
I think the key message here is that language learning is a continuous process. It's not about reaching a destiny. Okay.
It's about embracing the journey.
The journey.
With all of its twists and turns.
And surprises.
And surprises, exactly.
I love that. Okay, so we're embracing the journey.
We are.
We're ready for more.
Let's do it.
Let's dive into part 3. Welcome back to our deep dive. We've really gone in depth with essential English vocabulary.
We have, yeah.
We started with those core words.
Yeah.
And moved into context and idioms and all of that.
We even touched on grammar a little bit.
A little bit, which I know...
Not everyone's favorite.
Not everyone's favorite, but...
Important.
Essential.
Yeah.
For sure. So now we get to the fun part.
Okay.
Putting it all into practice.
Yeah.
Actually using these skills.
In real life.
In real life.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, one of the most effective ways is to find a language partner.
Okay, a language partner.
Someone to practice with.
Like a friend.
A friend, a colleague.
Someone you met online.
Someone you met online. And having that language partner gives you a chance to practice speaking and listening.
In a safe environment.
In a safe environment where you don't feel pressured.
So how do you find a good language partner?
Well, I think the first step is to think about your own learning style.
Really?
Do you prefer structured conversations?
Right.
Or more casual chats?
Right.
Do you like to focus on specific grammar points?
Or just kind of go with the flow.
Or just go with the flow. Yeah, exactly.
And then find someone who complements that.
Right. Find someone who matches your style.
Amen.
And then make it fun.
Yeah.
Talk about things you both enjoy.
Watch movies.
Watch movies together. Listen to music.
Cook together.
Yeah, cook a meal together in English.
I love that. And, you know, we can't forget about all those great apps and websites.
Technology has revolutionized language learning.
It really has.
I mean...
so many options.
There are so many options now.
Duolingo, Babbel, Rosetta Stone.
Yeah.
Like, you've got
a world of language learning at your fingertips.
Yeah, but sometimes it feels overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming.
Because there's just so much.
There's so much out there.
So how do you stay motivated?
Well, I think the key is to remember that language learning is a journey.
Not a race.
Not a race.
Okay.
It's about consistency,
Okay.
not intensity.
So small steps.
Small steps.
Every day.
Every day.
I like that.
Don't try to learn everything at once.
Right.
Set realistic goals, celebrate your progress, and focus on enjoying the process.
You have to make it fun.
Exactly.
And incorporate English into things you already enjoy.
Right.
So if you like reading, read a news article in English.
If you like watching movies, watch a movie in English.
If you like listening to music, listen to English music.
Yeah, find those little moments throughout your day.
Where you can immerse yourself in the language.
And speaking of immersion,
Yeah.
don't underestimate the power of travel.
Oh, travel's the best.
It's amazing.
Because you're forced to use
You have to use it.
your skills.
Right?
And you're surrounded
You're
by...
immersed in the culture and the language.
It's like a language learning boot camp.
It is. It's like a crash course.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one key message you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say embrace the journey.
Embrace the journey.
Language learning is not about perfection.
It's about
progress. It's about connection.
It's about the joy of communication.
Exactly.
Well said.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive on essential English vocabulary.
Me too.
And that you feel inspired and empowered
Yeah.
to continue your language learning journey.
Absolutely. Keep learning, keep practicing, and have fun.
Yes. Have fun.
All right. Thanks for having me.
It was great having you. Thank you to everyone for listening, and happy learning.